Hey everyone, you're watching the Esperanza 243. I am here to read you Long Live Menavia Part 3. I'm not really going to give you an update on anything really because it's kind of like a same day recording. Kind of. Like what they do for television shows. Or not television shows, more like game shows. Comedy shows, really. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to read to you more of Long Live Menavia. And from the last video, I'm going to do a little recap before I continue reading. We learned that Caprice was spying on her mother in her bedroom. And then she went to the greenhouse to do some painting. I believe that's where we were at the last, when I stopped reading it. So here we go. Caprice, how long have you been in the greenhouse? I was halfway done with my painting when I heard you calling just now. Marie smiled. My dear, I'm glad you still paint. Caprice gave her a look. Why were you calling? I am going out for a while. Our neighbor needs some flowers and herbs for a tonic. Would you like to come with me? Caprice thought for a moment. No thank you, Mama. I'd like to stay. I don't want the paint to dry when I am not finished with it. Her mother nodded and headed off. The next second, Caprice went back to the greenhouse and worked on her painting. After 10 minutes, she wasn't sure how long her mother would take to get the herbs and flowers. She painted as best as she could, in the quickest time possible. I am done, she whispered. She sighed. Finally, now I can get into Mom's room. She put the metal scrap back where it was and placed her finished canvas painting carefully in the sun to let the paint dry. Then Caprice ran inside and went to her mother's room. She twisted the doorknob and pushed. The door wouldn't open. Ugh, she locked it again. Why does she always lock her room? She pulled something out of her hair and started using it in the keyhole. She pressed her ear against the door, listening to the sound of activity in her mother's keyhole. It didn't take long for the lock to click. She put the item back in her hair and opened the door. Then she got up and walked into Marie's room. She observed the room to its fullest once more, seeing as she rarely visited her mother here anymore. That doesn't make sense. The bed was next to a vanity desk. To the left of the vanity desk, there was a semi-fancy chest. It was filled with Marie's clothing. There was another clothing chest. It used to belong to her husband. There were 2 windows. One overlooked the backyard, and the other overlooked their greenhouse. To the girl's right, there was a door. Caprice had never opened it, and was nervous whether to open it or not. She pushed the door out of her mind, remembering her mother would be back soon. She walked to her mother's clothing chest and opened a small door. There were at least 4 drawers. She chose the second drawer and opened it. The drawer was filled with undergarments. Caprice sighed. She dug deeper to the back of the drawer. Her hand touched something. It moved. She grabbed it and pulled it out. It was the locket. She fingered the heart-shaped locket. Then she noticed something on the edge. On its edge, the locket could be opened. She slipped a finger between a crack and slid it to the point it touched the clasped part. Then she lifted it with her fingernail. It opened. Inside the locket was a picture of a woman wearing a big frou-frou dress. The woman was sitting down. The picture was on the right part of the locket. That wasn't all of it, though. The left heart of the locket looked like a picture was once there, but it was removed. Instead, there was something etched into the metal. Caprice squinted her eyes. She could see the words, but it was faded. She held it toward a window to aim at the etching. Now the sun was shining at the inscription. She could read it, but didn't know what it meant. The words were in French. Translated, it read, "I love you, Louisa." She became confused when she saw the name. "Who's Louisa?" she whispered. All of a sudden, she heard a door open. All of a sudden, she heard a door shut. She turned her head. Footsteps could be heard, and it was heading to the dining room. She put the locket back, moved the undergarments, and closed the chest. By the time she left her adopted mother's room, Marie was a few yards away. Caprice didn't have time to lock the door with her hairpiece. She hurried to the foyer. "Caprice, is that you, dear?" Marie called when she heard footsteps in the foyer. She headed there. She spotted her daughter resting on a comfortable chair. "What are you doing here? You haven't sat in here since..." She frowned. She closed her eyes and then shook her head, placing a smile on her face. She opened her eyes. "Let us have something to eat. It is almost time to make dinner." It was almost French, wasn't it? It's supposed to be an Italian accent. It was a few days later. Caprice and Marie were in a different market this time. They were only looking at things, though. There wasn't really anything for them to buy. They had everything they needed for the house. Marie idled near a section all about fans. There were so many styles. Caprice idled near an area with different sized swords. She thought they were interesting trifles and would love to handle one. Excuse me. Then she remembered something. Her mother would never let her use such a thing. It wouldn't be proper. At that moment, someone noticed the young lady eyeing the swords. Let me try to get the accent right. "How could a young lady like yourself be interested in swords?" a man said, startling her. He gave her a curious look, one of intrigue and challenge. She became shy and lowered her eyes bashfully. "I have never seen one, only a dagger and arrows." Her face shadowed. "My father used to hunt sometimes, to put food on the table." The man became worried with her wording. "Something troubles you about your father?" She shook her head. "No, he died when I was young." "Then perhaps a dagger would help you. A young lady should know how to hunt on her own, with no one caring for her." Caprice widened her eyes and shook her head. "I cannot. Mother would never allow it. It's not proper for any young lady to carry weapons." He sighed, pleased that she was cared for, but disappointed in losing a customer. He suddenly had an idea. He walked to two fellows near his area and talked to them. They nodded, and then he came back. "I've talked to some swordsmen. They would love to show how a proper and exciting duel would be handled. Would you like to stay and watch? Perhaps you might learn a few things by studying them." Caprice bit her lower lip in excitement. That was when the swordsmen started to duel. The clashing swords made her even more excited. She then watched the way they moved their hands, feet, and grips. The section Marie was at was on the corner of two streets. One of the streets had plenty of buildings. Some were stores and other were building complexes occupied with apartments. There was only one building different. It was a hotel, despite the fact there were buildings occupied with apartments. People were milling about the two streets. It was an interesting day after all. A special market was going on. Whatever they didn't sell the year before was more affordable. Plus, it was an easy way to steal or hide oneself from public eye. All those people around, squirming around, trying to find someone a person was with just a moment ago. It was easy. It wasn't easy for other people, though. Less than half the people in the streets were new in town, staying at the hotel. There was a couple, newlyweds, but they weren't shopping. In fact, they looked lost. The two stuck to each other. The crowd was pushing them farther back and pushing them in different directions. Unintentionally, of course. Marie noticed a lot of people were confused and lost, but the newlyweds were easy to spot. They were the only ones carrying luggage instead of shopping bags. She walked closer toward them and touched the wife gently. The wife looked at her with a startled look. She touched her husband. He stopped and saw Marie. Let me make sure I get this right. I'm not very good with French. "Vous êtes obligatoirement nouvel arrivant?" she said to the newlyweds in French. They sighed and nodded. Translation: "You must be newcomers." Est-ce que parlez-vous au hotel?" the wife asked. "Do you know where a hotel is?" Pretty much is what the translation is. Marie pointed out where it was. The newly couple headed in that direction, but the kind woman guided them closest to the left side of the street. That way the crowd wouldn't push them farther away from the hotel. A few minutes later, they were not far from the hotel, but for some reason, the hotel sign wasn't up. The couple looked around. They felt lost again. On the other side of the street, a man was confused. It looked as if he lost a friend. He kept looking around, even across the street. The man noticed the lost newlyweds. He crossed the street. As he kept an eye on them, he tapped on the husband's shoulder. I'm going to stop there. I actually have to go. I have some things to do today, including bowling practice, as I've told you guys before in the other video. Yes, today is Saturday, not Friday. Was there something else I wanted to tell you guys? It doesn't appear so. I will talk to you guys later. The next book reading video will be part 4. And that will be, let's see, I'm going to be uploading this on Monday. So let's see, part 4 I will upload the next coming Saturday. Possibly. Excuse me. Why do I get the feeling my ride is here? Well, I'm gonna go. This is the Esperanza 243, signing off.